Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is our MethaneSAT event as part of the Work on Climate event series. My name is Richard Kim. I'm a core member of the organizing team at Work on Climate, and I'll be hosting this event. This event is hosted by the Work on Climate community. You can join us at workonclimate.org. I think we have probably some attendees from outside our community, so I'll just give a little introduction to Work on Climate. Work on Climate is a positive action-oriented community that helps remove barriers from people who want to work on climate. By fostering community, collaboration, and knowledge sharing, we hope to unblock folks seeking to work on climate and inspire them to take action, whether through job seeking, entrepreneurship, volunteer work, or organizing with others. We are a Slack-based community, and you can join us by signing up at workonclimate.org. By the way, that's the unofficial description. We haven't quite codified a description of Work on Climate yet, but that's one I've been working on. We are recording this, so if you prefer not to be recorded, you can stay muted or keep your camera off. And someone just asked if there will be a recording available. Yes, the recording will be posted later today, probably in about 4 to 5 hours from now. It just takes a little while to process. Let's see. There's a Google Doc for notes. So if you like, we can take notes together in this Google Doc. Everyone should have access. It's a kind of convenient way for us to have a record of the presentation. Also in there are a bunch of useful links that are pertinent to this presentation. Let's see, we've got about 18 people. I think for now, we'll maybe try to do questions in the chat. But if we get a lot of questions, we may move over to Slido, which is a question-taking app. But for now, go ahead and put your questions in the chat. I'll try to keep track of them, and we'll call on people as we go through. Let's see. Other housekeeping business. There is a one thing that we tend to have with our events. We do this thing called One Thing I Learned. So we have a thread in the events channel in Slack where you post one thing that you've learned from this event if you'd like to kind of reflect and share out to other people. So I invite you to do that, and I'll post that thread into the chat right now. So here's what this event is about. This is the official introduction now. Each year, oil and gas sources leak 70 to 80 million tons of methane gas, between 30 and 80 plus times more warming than carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere. MethaneSAT, an environmental defense fund subsidiary and a recipient of the Bezos Earth Fund grant, is a crucial initiative to launch a satellite to detect those links from space and make the data publicly available. Tom Melendez, Senior Engineering Director of Data Products at MethaneSAT, will discuss the mission of MethaneSAT, his team's work at MethaneSAT supporting that mission, and current and upcoming job opportunities with software and data engineering at MethaneSAT. About Tom, Tom is leading the development of MethaneSAT's data platform, transforming sensor bits into actionable analytics. Previously, Tom was at Google, where he joined as the technical lead/manager of the geoimagery analytics infrastructure team. There, he led the development of scalable fault-tolerant services to process, store, and serve core metrics, such as oil tank volumes and car counts. Tom has also held senior engineering roles in open source and cloud commerce at Google, big data at Skybox and Imaging, and near real-time content delivery at Yahoo. So thanks for coming, Tom. And I think without further ado, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Richard. I appreciate it. And thanks, folks, for attending. I'm Tom here in sunny Seattle today, and here to tell you a little bit about MethaneSAT and what we're doing and our team and such. So let's start. So here's the agenda here. It's quick, plenty of time for questions, and I'll try not to yammer on too much. A little bit about the project, a little bit about our team and how we work, and then little just a tad there on what it's like working on a climate project, and then some Q&A. Let's get into it. So let's talk about MethaneSAT. I'm not going to spend too much time on the satellite. It's not my emphasis, but of course everybody wants to know. It's cool stuff, right? And so So at a glance, we are building a satellite. Okay, this is real. This is happening. I often have to stress this to people that we're really doing it. And so, some basics about our satellite. There's much more on our website, but imaging spectrometer, sun synchronous orbit, at about 350, maybe a little more kilograms. So, it's not a small thing. And basically, 200 kilometer swath width, and we can detect down to, 2 parts per billion per km. So wide area, and we can get it at pretty low levels. Just some dates here. This was announced back in 2018 at TED. There's an image there of the talk, and you can easily find it. Our contracts were signed with Ball Aerospace, who's actually doing the system integration of the satellite. In 2019, our CDR, Critical Design Review. If you're familiar with aerospace, that's a major milestone where leads up. It's led up to by previous reviews, but the Critical Design Review is verification that all systems have been designed and any issues are solved and things like that, and really ready to build. That was in September of 2020. And our launch, we have an agreement with SpaceX to take us up, and the launch window opens, October of 2022. Generally, launch windows are about 6 months wide, so the earliest they would launch is 2022. And we expect data in 2023. And so you can see there that our goal, that 45% reduction of methane emissions by 2025, doesn't leave us a whole lot of time, right? And so we're working quick on this, but we feel confident that we can do it. Just a bit about our organization. As you see there, our original seed funding was from the Audacious project. We've had some private philanthropy in there as well, but most recently the Bezos Earth Fund. Our science team, is comprised of folks from Harvard and SAO, and we, MethaneSAT, we are a wholly owned subsidiary of EDF and work quite closely with EDF, as if we were colleagues, but we actually exist in the same Slack channels, we're in all the same meetings, but we are technically a different organization. Okay, I'll keep going. So, one of the questions that we get all the time is, well, okay, I heard so-and-so is doing satellite, and so-and-so is doing satellite, whatever. So you can definitely read more about this on our website. But these are some quick stats to show folks. Basically, the way we see it is we fit a very interesting capability where we can detect, we have a decent area that we can see and we can detect at a reasonably low level, and then we can hand off that data to other systems, or that information, I should say, to other systems, people that are doing more point source, for example, or even pull in some information from global mapping. So we feel that our targeting and our findings from our targeting can be shared with and influenced by these other systems. Because again, our ultimate goal, we're not an aerospace company, and we're also a nonprofit. So our goal is to just get this done. We're not trying to make a business out of this. We're really trying to make sure that we can accomplish this goal. So we're happy to work with other folks, whether they can influence our targeting or we influence theirs. But yeah, more information on that stuff is available on our website. Okay, so I'm really responsible more for the data platform. So I'll answer questions about the satellite if I can, but honestly, my expertise is more in this data platform. So really, if I had to sum it up quickly, I would say, we call it a data platform, but really we're responsible for the data flow, like to and from the satellite, through processing to its actionable state with users. So, and I list out some of the major functions there that our team handles. And so the most obvious one is processing pipeline. When data comes down from satellite, well, what do you do with it to make it actionable? And the answer is process a lot. And so at full operations, we're generating about a petabyte a year. CPUs, definitely in the thousands, in the low thousands at 24-hour utilization. So that's not just, oh, we fired up a node and used it for 10 minutes. That calculation is we're maxing out those CPUs. And one of the differences about what we do is, these are long-running parallel processes. It's not high throughput, quick transactional things. These jobs take a long time, even when we do scale them out. And when they fail, there are techniques to restart the various tasks and make sure the whole job goes through. So it's definitely a different type of processing task than you might see in other environments. We're also responsible for the infrastructure and components of mission operations. So mission operations is kind of like what you see on TV, right? With folks, actually sitting there in a control room, like commanding the satellite. So we don't actually build all of the software that does the command and control, but it all lives in our environment and it interacts with various software that we have built. And the same thing is true with data operations. So any manual and automated quality control that happens with the data once it comes down, so we can, verify the integrity of the data to loop back, to the satellite operator and say, okay, it's okay to delete that data. We got the complete set. It wasn't corrupted. It's good. Or no, you either have to issue a rebound link, or you might even have to retask it altogether for whatever reason. We are responsible for the infrastructure and components to make that happen as well. And then finally, and really quite importantly, is the tools and visualizations and integrations to actually drive action. Right? So we've talked about commanding the satellite, we've talked about processing the data, but how do you, our goal is that reduction of methane emissions, right? So how do you actually get that to happen? And so, we're an organization of scientists, engineers, policy folks. We're not activists, right? But we want to make sure that whoever needs this data, whether it's regulators, the investment community, local communities, activist communities, that they have it and they can easily get it into a form that they can then use to drive this change. So our team is responsible for all of that. So just a bit about the pipeline. I won't go too deep, but basically you can think of it as a 4-phase pipeline where we're basically correcting data, honestly not too computationally expensive. But at that point, after that point, we're actually trying to, get the concentrations, right? And we're accounting for the things there that we list, like cloud cover and aerosols, things like that. We grid it, geolocate it. Again, these things are algorithms that are generally well understood here. We are integrating a oil and gas infrastructure map as well on top of this, which is actually a peer project or accessory project maybe to ours, where we are using machine learning to identify oil and gas infrastructure throughout the world. So we do that, and then finally, phase 4, we deal with actual quantification, trying to figure out, where these emissions are coming from, and actually even going one step further and trying to attribute them to, the owners or likely owners of that infrastructure. All right. And so then finally, the other piece of this, I'll say, is action. Us ourselves, MethaneSAT, are not in that action business per se, but the project as a whole, we understand that to drive that change takes time and people, and funds. And so I can tell you, it's not just a tech project. That there are resources being staffed up and allocated to actually take these tools and these data products that we build and take them right to the people and organizations that can actually drive this change, which is personally very fulfilling for myself and the people on my team. Like, we all enjoy this. It's fun. It's cool tech, but you want to know that it's actually going to get somewhere. And so um, and that's where we really have the help of EDF that to take this data and actually bring it to the place where the change can happen. And so from a technical level, we do work with these folks often, and they help us derive requirements. They put us right in direct contact with some major players that actually can help us understand what we need to make that change. And yeah, just to reiterate, the goal is really important, but the data integrity is non-negotiable. Like, this is not, we are a science first organization, and if we couldn't, we wouldn't misstate the data. And so if we're going to work tirelessly to make sure the data is as clear as it can be, and we state it as accurately as possible. All right. And then finally, we're doing this already. And so you can check out permianmap.org for some data that we've captured over the Permian Basin via airplane. This is a related project to mine. I again work with these folks closely, but I'm not directly been consulted a bit with it, but I'm not on this project. But again, it's overall part of our methane strategy, where we really are trying to identify and quantify and drive this change. Okay, and so just a little bit about our team and positions. So our team at full staff, will be 3 front ends, 3 back ends, project coordinator, and so this doesn't include me. And so we're actually hiring 2 more front ends and a project coordinator this year. So those are coming up. Our positions are full-time. They're remote first US, and they include benefits and 3 weeks plus vacation, 3 weeks and above. These are real engineering roles that have deep ownership and impact. So we're really focused. We really want to make sure that people take pride in what they do and they feel that it's meaningful. And so we are giving people large swaths of work and tasks that they can really get into and feel that they contributed, rather than a small cog in a big system that's not noticeable. So we really try to think about that when we break up tasks. Also point out that this is largely, we're actively developing, but it is a greenfield project. There's no legacy system to support. There's no you have to integrate with this already existing thing that nobody wants to work on. We don't have that problem. So so it's actually kind of nice that we get to build and choose everything, and we're involved in due diligence in doing that. We are really we take the time to do trade studies and analysis. We present it to the team with our recommendations and other options, and what tests or whatever we conducted include that. So we do actually take the time in reviewing whether it's a tool or a framework or a vendor choice, or even just a technique on how to do something. So we actually put in the effort there. And like I said, this is a real engineering team. Like, yes, it's a nonprofit, but this is not oh, whatever you got to do to make it work or throw it over the wall. Like, you could expect, you could expect the same type of things that you'd see at Google or Facebook or whatever in what we do. And that's what we are doing. And so, um, I would say minus some of the excess process, but uh, design reviews, code reviews, all of these things you see in the work that we do, and we feel that like it is critical. We really are where where the rubber meets the road here. Like if we don't if we don't do our job right, the integrity of all of it is in question. So we're pretty particular about that. And then yeah, we're putting up a sensor that really has not flown before, right? And we're really trying to uh, capture data in a normalized way worldwide. And so because of that, we're not really clear on all of the requirements. And so when we aren't clear on those requirements, we tend to lean towards flexibility in the system. So from an engineering standpoint, well, if we put in a little more effort, can we make this a little bit more flexible? And that gives us flexibility in the architecture and a couple of key decisions. So that's kind of where the team falls on that spectrum. Like, well, we do need this now. We're pretty sure of this, but we're not positive. And so if we do X, Y, Z, we can actually be in a good position to pivot this system in that direction if we have to. So that's kind of generally our philosophy. Try to do trade-off analysis, a little bit of contingency planning, and a bit of flexibility. And then as far as development goes, cloud only development and production. This is all in the cloud. Our developers are writing code in the cloud. Everybody's got a MacBook Pro, but I mean, other than that, that's the only assigned hardware. Okay, and then finally, just a few things. I hear these things a lot from, I speak to a lot of folks about possibly working in Canada and climate, and I just thought I'd get some of this out now, because I think it's important. I think it's important for the tech community to hear, the answers to these kind of things. So, I can say genuinely, like it really is great working on something with impact. We do have a lot of autonomy. And we have some real responsibility. It's not a an internal project or something. It's well funded. People want results, and they're going to take these results and really try to drive change. So we all do feel like personally responsible. These are some of the top questions that I hear often from when I speak to folks in tech. Um, you know, and so just running through them here, will my career take a hit? No, I don't, or at least I don't think so, and I don't feel mine has. Can I go back to big tech? Sure, you're not going to have a problem, in my opinion. Uh, I spent 5 years at Google, and I was pretty active in the interviewing circles. In my time there, I conducted over 250 interviews. And I did work close with the recruiting team. They would never rule you out because you worked for a nonprofit, or you worked on something that wasn't another big company. If you have the skills, you have the skills. So, do you have real challenges? Yes. Like this is not easy to do, and there are people that might dispute our findings. So again, our integrity and transparency are really important. Do you follow best practices? Meaning engineering best practices? Yes, as I mentioned, and we pride ourselves on that. And we take time in developing those and refining them. Including time in our sprints, including monthly meetings where we dig into issues. So yeah, we do take it seriously. Do we keep current on tech? Yeah, I think so. And I've often told the team that, like, look, there's a good chance that the code you write today is not going to be the code that we launch with. Like, it's going to be the code that gets us to the next place, but there's a good chance it might get rewritten and or owned by somebody else. And I can tell you on my last satellite mission, that was what happened. Like I wrote a lot of code, and by the time we actually launched, there was much less of it in production because other people take ownership, they rewrite it, they upgrade it, et cetera, et cetera. That happens, and so we pride ourselves on being flexible, not just building once and expecting it to run silently forever. And then finally, like, do you pay real salaries? Like, are people actually getting paid to do this? Yes, we pay real salaries, and software engineering salaries for you. So what are the potential downsides? Like a startup, we are in a lot of ways a startup. We have the funding, but we're a small team, and we just do what we have to do. And so you end up doing things outside your job description. And then, like a startup though, we do care about our costs as well. So, we are spending lots of money on the cloud, and we try to be cognizant of that and not just, waste, not just throw hardware at it, or I'll just, spin up, 10 databases because I can. Like, be conscientious about it and, clean up after yourself. And that's kind of team philosophy there. And then, there are no RSUs, so in our case, we're a nonprofit, right? So that's probably some of the downsides. And I think that's it. So thanks, folks, for bearing with me on that. I hope I didn't go over time, but I'm happy to take some questions. If,
Thanks so much, Tom. Yeah, maybe worth stopping the screen share just so people can see your face a little bit more. Cool. We got a bunch of questions in the chat. I think we'll just take them through in order for now, and hopefully we can get to all of them. What I'll do is I'll call on people and ask them if they want to read their questions, especially if they may have rephrased them or want to rephrase them when they're actually asking Tom. And if you'd prefer me to read your question, or if I don't get a response, I'll just read it to him directly. So first in the chat was Keenan.
Hey, Tom. I was wondering does MethaneSAT develop the sensor that flies on the satellite, or is that developed by Ball Aerospace as well?
Yeah, it was designed by Harvard, and but Ball actually develops the sensor. Yeah, so we don't. But it was a collaboration between both Harvard and our chief scientists. So, but yeah, we don't. So yeah, we don't directly develop it.
Awesome, thanks.
Stanley Lee was next. You had multiple questions. Maybe you can pick your favorite one.
Hey, I think they're one of the same, really. I was initially confused about the goal, specifically how your mapping process works, but I'm just curious, what are your main bottlenecks? And in terms of growing your team, is this more like for software talent, like studs who are great at mapping and machine learning and who cares about climate change?
So you're asking where are bottlenecks if I understand correctly, Stanley, you're asking about our bottlenecks in finding staff. Like, is that what you mean? Like, or what type of people we're looking for? Is that what you're?
What kind of people you're looking for, and also what are your bottlenecks? Like, is it just staff, or is there also something else? That's it.
Okay, gotcha. So the people that we generally look for are obviously software engineers, folks that do have experience with data and leaning towards algorithm development and or at least willing to dig in. We have no problem using solutions found on Stack Overflow, but we do ask people to understand, like, well, what is that really doing? And if it's a situation where, like, oh well, I just this thing wasn't working, I found this on Stack Overflow, I pasted it in, it works. like, okay, but we actually do file, like we actually do leave it to do there and file a ticket and say like, okay, like somebody's just got to go verify that this is, this is not, leaking memory out the other end or something like that, right? And so we do have deadlines. We are practical about things, but we really try to be conscientious about going back. So, so that's to say, like, we want people that really do care about what's happening with the code. Because that's really our job. There isn't anybody else to do that. We work with scientists, again, then economists and policy people, right? So they expect the software to work. And so that's so if that helps, that's where the software, that's what the kind of folks that we're, generally looking for, folks that, on both the front end and the back end, but really can dig in and understand what what their code is doing or what the browser is doing, in case of the front end, things like that. In terms of, you mentioned bottlenecks. I don't know, like, the organization is interesting that we do, we're this multi-organizational team. And so I think we have a good spirit amongst all of us, but sometimes there are some, a little bit of organizational hurdles where we might end up, like, might take a little longer to get approval to do, to do some kind of collaboration. But that happens. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really identify anything as a major bottleneck at this point. We have a lot to build, and we're doing it. It's actually nice to be in that position where, like, we just get to build. And so yeah, so I don't know. I can't really identify any bottlenecks right now. We're just cruising along, just churning through sprints and pumping out systems.
Waiting for the satellite to launch.
That's waiting for the satellite launch.
Looks like Andres also had multiple questions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tom, for your presentation.
Oh, sure.
I was wondering if you are planning to use what kind of chemical transport model for the inverse procedures, and also if there are some data assimilation related activities in direction of on OSSE experiments.
I missed the first part of the question. Let me go to the second one first, though. I did catch that. Yes, the short answer is yes. There is a dedicated engineer or really scientist dedicated to Aussies, and so we are doing a lot of simulation, and really that's how we're testing. Like, not only are we testing the algorithms with that themselves, but we're using that simulation to test the whole system. So that's a big part of what we do. So now the first part of your question.
The first was what chemical transport model are you using for the inverse modeling techniques?
Okay. Yeah, I actually can't answer that. I apologize. I'm not the expert in that, and I don't actually know what I'm permitted to say there anyway. So, but honestly, it would be buzzwords coming out of my mouth because I'm not. That's not my forte. But yeah, sorry about that one.
No problem. Maybe I have the other question below is about if you have sounding balloon activities or airborne for the procedures of testing or validation for your instrument, and also if you have, I am in Colombia this moment, and any cooperation in validation of this kind of activities, please let me know.
Okay. Yeah, we have done some airborne, some science flights with a sensor very close to this, and so to do some pre-validation of everything. We've done them here in the U.S., and we have more scheduled this year. So we got, this is one, maybe it's not a bottleneck, but there was a slight delay due to COVID. That was actually one of the things that was affected, was our flight schedule, our plane-based flight schedule. And basically, we couldn't send the people And so we had to wait a few months for that, but we're good now. And so we're going to resume those this year.
I think the next question was Bene.
Hi there. Hi, Tom. Thanks
Hi.
for this talk.
Sure.
I think the mission is really inspiring because CH4 is one of the most potent greenhouse gas. And I was just thinking, you know, you started in, at least MethaneSAT started in 2018. First images, I think you'll get in 2023. So it's a really long journey. If you reflect on that, is there something that you guys would do differently if you were to start again? And if so, what would it be and why?
That's a great question. I think so. Yeah, this is my second satellite mission. So I knew what I was getting into. Like, it do take a little while, and so so there is some of that. So like the length itself was not daunting, but I think there were a few aspects of the project we probably started, probably could have gotten going a little faster. I think we're making good progress on the UI side of things, but like I do worry that we aren't getting the right. I kind of wish we were a little further along with some of our user testing and things like that. And so again, we really want to drive this change, and so we are making an effort, and I think we're making a decent one. But I think in retrospect, I probably would have started that one earlier. Like it's I mean, there's plenty of projects that put out data, and anybody can put out like, oh, here's the data, look, slap it on a map, okay. But like, what else can we really do to drive that change? And so kind of wish we had engaged in that one a little earlier. I think that's the big one, I would say.
And you're talking there, Tom, about like making the data accessible, making it visual, making it so that it's easy for an activist who doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience like combing through rooms of data, where they can really see it and be able to use it quickly. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, because we're taking this very factual. I mean, you have it right. We're taking this very factual scientific data, but like, I want to really make sure that we have the tooling in place where the person that's looking at it for their community or whatever it is can quickly answer the question they want, and not just see like a wall of points or a heat map or something and be like, well, I don't really know what any of this means. I don't know. Like, okay, it looks bad, but like I can't assess what it is, right? And so again, we are doing these user tests and things like that, and we're bringing in folks and working with stakeholders, working with various communities. But I think it'll all work out. But I think if I would have had like Bene just asked if I could do this again, like I probably should have started that earlier. I think. So, I hope I pronounced your name right, by the way. But yeah, so yeah, that's one again, because it's like, not only is it important for the project, but like the team, like again, we all want to know that we're really doing the right thing. And like, sure, it'll be great to see the data out there, but if people are just, we're all deluged with data right now, right? And so like, really, how do you get it to that point where somebody can just take it and like, either directly make a decision on it or bring it to the person who can? And so I'm a little concerned. So, yeah.
Great. I think next in our queue is Jason Yuzinski.
Hey there. Thanks, Tom, for this presentation. Just first, like a maybe boring or annoying question. Do you know what orbit the satellite will be on? Whether it's polar or inclined?
I don't actually. I guess I don't.
Okay. Do you know, is MethaneSAT targeting only mapping like human emissions, or do you know if they're also targeting like melting permafrost, like way north?
We're not really focused on permafrost. It's really more human based. Yeah. So.
Okay, got it. And then I guess follow-up question: do you know how access to your data will be managed? Will you give it away? Will you sell it to anyone? To a few people?
Yeah. The short answer is we haven't figured it all out yet. However, we've already committed to our donors that what we call our L4 data, the actual emissions data, that will be non-commercially available. So like we will, for non-commercial use, it'll be available. You'll be able to get it from us, from our
Cool.
website.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thanks.
Brianna Brown is next.
Hi there. Thanks very much for the presentation. I thought it was super great, really interesting. It seems like a really interesting domain to be working in, specifically around the open positions that you see coming up. Just trying to see if someone with qualifications like my own should consider applying for these front-end positions. Are they purely, you're looking for someone who has lots of JavaScript experience? Are you willing to spend a little bit of time training someone up on the front-end stack? What kind of specifics are you looking for in those positions?
That's a great question. So we've, so like our actual front-end stack is, React and TypeScript, but we've made a point to say that, we really want the person rather than the tools. And so, the right person would expect to be trained, or if, we would expect them to obviously want to do this and come, learn a new language and framework and ramp off on it. So no, it's an important thing. We're not just looking for folks that have a tool set. Like, we're really looking for software engineers who are like really going to think about these problems and be able to collaborate with us and work through it. And we kind of feel that, the tools and things are, almost secondary. So.
Cool.
So,
And sorry, I just had a quick follow-up question.
go ahead.
The team being so small, how do you make sure like mentorship stays present within the team and the team's constantly growing, not in terms of size, but in terms of skill?
Yeah, it's actually a real concern. So what I'm saying is I see it as a big concern, and let me say why. So we are a small team, and it is important for me that people grow. And so, we do have a mix of junior and senior folks, and they can help out there. And we give those folks opportunities, to help start growing people, via the people right under them, or, we bring in interns as well and then mentor them. So, but then there is that question of like the senior folks, like, well, how do the senior folks grow? Admittedly, we don't have it completely figured out. However, what we do have access to is two bodies of experts really at our disposal. The technical advisory group and science advisory group, which is these are things listed on our website. And so you'll see these folks are quite accomplished in various domains, including software. So we do try to put those folks together. We have called in industry experts in the past to in the visualization realm and things like that. To be frank, a lot of people will take our call. Like if we're using, like we're trying to help the world and we're using their product, they'll take our call. So if we do call up an industry expert in some software technology, I haven't, to be blunt, I haven't been rejected yet. So that's my approach there. Like, and I do try to give. We do career talks and like performance reviews like twice a year, and so we do talk about these things, where people want to go, and things like that. So we are thinking about it, but I do recognize that I don't necessarily have, like, not only the junior folks. I think we have that figured out, but the senior folks how to really get them to the next stage. So it is top of mind.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, Tom, I just want to follow up in terms of these open roles. I mean, so it sounds like you're really looking for, good engineers is sort of like what I'm hearing from you. And I wonder then, are there ways that you would distinguish the type of person that would apply to the front end role versus someone who would apply to a back end role at your organization?
It's a good question. So it's funny. We've had candidates who applied to one role, and we've often thought they might have been a fit for the better role. But really, the interview process is almost the same between the two. And so the front end role, what we're looking for in that case, we would expect some kind of client experience. Like they don't necessarily have to know, TypeScript and React, but like, have they been dealing with, data on the front end, and do they understand like the challenges there and dealing with the browser and good client experiences, mobile, whatever. So if we didn't see that, but the person, in other words, if the person was solely a backend engineer and then they turned around and said they wanted to do front end, that one we might have to give a hard thing, because that's beyond tools. Now it's actually crossing domains. I'm not necessarily saying no, but that one might be an interesting scenario. But other than that, I would say, really what we look for are people that are not just looking to get it done, but actually really care and can rationalize why they made decisions. And so that's a big part of our interview process, to understand the why. Why did you make the trade-off? And so because that's it. When the day comes that they start, it's like, well, I mean, we're a small team. We, like, there are things we can check for, and like, design reviews and code reviews and things like that. But really, you own this, right? So we really want to know that like the person's being thoughtful about it. And like, this is why I chose to do this, versus, like I said, just throwing just some framework solution or some, whatever they found on Stack Overflow. So I would say that's really the characteristic we look for, that ownership, that rationale, that you did something for a reason. I would say that's probably one of the big characteristics we look for.
Great. You mentioned a project coordinator role, which I think is maybe not up on the website yet. Can you say more about how that role is maybe interfacing with your team, or is that part of your team or separate from your team?
No, it's great. Great question. So we're particularly proud of this role. And so, for the previous roles, we received a lot of applicants that just really didn't have the experience for the roles that we had. And so what we decided to do was we basically, the project coordinator, it's the full title of the role is project coordinator / software apprentice. And what we've done is we've created a hybrid role where 3 days a week, that person will help out with various administrative type tasks that we do need done, kind of a role of like a project coordinator, literally coordinating between groups and things like that. But the other 2 days a week, the person will be assigned light technical tasks and get to collaborate with the engineering team. So this role is really meant for like somebody very junior, maybe somebody out of a boot camp or something like that. No professional software experience, but probably some work experience. And so, and it's a 2-year fixed term position. So we're really looking forward to like helping this person build up and really get some experience to either move on from there to a role with us, or even if they move on to another place, they actually have real software experience with a real team, doing the same best practices everybody else is doing, using the same build system and all that stuff. So we're pretty happy with that role. So
Oh,
that's what it is. Yeah, it's coming. I guess it's not up yet, but it's coming.
okay, great. Stanley, does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, I was just trying to ask a clarification question as Richard was articulating it, so, or as Tom was articulating it, so.
Okay, cool. Great. We have maybe time for one more question. If no one jumps forward, I will take it. Tom, I'm just interested in your personal journey to MethaneSAT, like particularly like, yeah, what made you kind of make the choice to take the job here, and were there other industries or other organizations you were looking at?
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, I was at Google for 5 years, and I had a great time. Like, don't get me wrong, like a lot of opportunities and a lot of, you know, and I'm not being cliche or, you know, like really a lot of great people, smart people, whatever. But you know, I just, I don't know, it was just at the time and in the position I was in, it was just a little underwhelming at that point. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, my project was about to get shut down, which is a common thing with Google. You know, and probably other big companies as well. You know, the project's not doing well, they shut it down. It doesn't mean people get fired. You just move to another team. It's very common if you've been at Google. And so, you know, I was like, well, all right, I can move to another team. I was talking to other folks, and they're telling me what they're doing, and I'm like, you know, I'm just pushing more bits around here. Like, what else can you know, what else can we do? And so, yeah, I have 2 kids, and so I, you know, was like, well, let's do something impactful. Uh, let's do something impactful where, you know, I can do something impactful, challenging, and work from home. And so, not that I live very far from the Google office, but so I really wanted all of those things, and so that's, you know, that's what brought me here. Like, I really wanted to do something that mattered, and you know, feel like I had a real impact. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how I came here.
Were you sort of looking for climate work in general, or you know, were you kind of approached by this? I'm just wondering, like, if there were sort of other things in your search that you considered and came across.
Yeah. So, you know, there were other things. There weren't any other climate opportunities. You know, I guess it's a good point. Like, I wanted to do something meaningful, but it wasn't necessarily restricted to climate. So, so, you know, to be fair, it's not like I was actively hunting for climate. I really just didn't want to, you know, push bits around for like a huge company where you know, it really just didn't matter. And so, so that's really what I meant by impact. Like, I think you could have impact in a small business too, right? If you know, like you do something and that like really matters to like everybody around you, you could have impact there too. But yeah, so I admit it probably wasn't so much the climate that got me, you know, looking around. But when this came up, and you know, and I realized like, wow, you know, what I could do here, the skills that I bring really could make a huge difference. Like, you know, that was a great feeling. And so again, looking and, you know, looking at my kids and be like, well, you know, I got to leave a good world for them. So that was the eye-opening moment. So I guess it was a little more that the opportunity made me realize than, you know, me seeking the opportunity.
Well, thanks. Thanks for your work at MethaneSAT. Thanks for doing your part to help the world out, and thanks for coming to talk to us today. Yeah, just a little bit of wrap up for folks. This is being recorded. I will post a video probably in a few hours. It takes a little time to process, to our YouTube channel. I'll also put a link to the video into the notes that are here. And let me just drop that notes link again. A few more just links I'll be dropping in the chat. If you want to join Work on Climate, find out about all kinds of other climate opportunities. We also have different kinds of programs for people who want to be entrepreneurs, people who just want to network, people who want to organize together. You can check out the Work on Climate community Slack at workonclimate.org. If you would like to take up up on the invitation to share one thing you learned in our events thread. I'm posting that into the chat now. And again, we just ask the people, sort of reflect and share out something that they learned from the talk, both to as a personal sort of journey thing, as well as to inspire others. And then here's the link to MethaneSAT itself. And you can read more about the satellites and the job descriptions. Any last words, Tom? Anything you'd like to say?
Thanks of course for having me, and I do encourage everybody to again look for that thing that's impactful, and it's these opportunities, you're going to see more and more of them. I'm seeing I'm seeing on my end, I'm seeing both nonprofits stepping up and businesses wanting to do both, earn a good living, but also do something for the world. So keep looking out for them. They're becoming more and more bountiful or plentiful. So keep looking out and just strive to have an impact.
Thanks. Yeah, that certainly matches our experience at Work on Climate. Our jobs channel has a constant flow. We don't only focus on tech jobs, but a lot of us come from the tech community, and so we're very aware of those jobs. No shortage of software engineer jobs in climate. If you have any trouble finding openings, like hit me up on Slack and I can send you 4 or 5. So yeah, for all of you who want to work on climate, there are jobs aplenty and more coming. Anyway, thank you everyone. Thanks for coming, and I think we'll wrap up here. Okay, take care.